So thank you for joining us. I guess kind of maybe it would be good to start with some introductions, who you are, what you do, and where you're at.
Yes. So my name is Mary Jordan. I'm at the University of Florida. I am the Assistant Director of Housing for Residential Engagement here. And so actually my job when I read your signature line is a lot like yours. I'm responsible for our learning communities, our faculty programs, and then I have a coordinator who does the staff recruitment, selection, and training processes for our department, but I oversee all of that.
Very cool. So we wanted to chat with you a little bit about today are some partnerships you've worked to create at the University of Florida for your living learning communities, but specifically those partnerships that are outside of the university. So can you talk a little bit about what are some of those partnerships you've created with folks outside of your campus community?
Yeah. So our biggest kind of most exciting, biggest win of a partnership is with Launchpad U, which is a local incubator. We have about 23 startups from the Gainesville community incubating in the first floor of one of our residence hall in a really lean startup space. And so Launchpad U entrepreneurs work on the ground floor of Infinity Hall, and we have bed spaces for just over 300 students who are members of our entrepreneurship living learning community on floors 2 through 5, and a lot of natural synergy and exciting things happening with all the different residents of that building. So some of the things that they do that are really neat are coding classes that they do in the evenings. And so actually over the course of a weekend, our students can learn how to build an app from the ground up, which is really kind of complementary but different from, say, their computer and information science engineers. Or even if they're not, right, like app development for iOS or for Android is actually pretty simple, and it can give them the legs up for their next step. So it's neat for us because entrepreneurship there's the academic study of entrepreneurship and innovation, but living it is so different. And so to have those two colliding, for us is really neat. You know, we've had this standard model of what a living learning community looks like for many years. And we always talk about it as a partnership between student affairs and the residence halls and our academic partners. But really some of the themes that we gather our living learning communities around, the best partners aren't necessarily academic. They're out in the community. They're the folks that are doing that work. And so that's really exciting for us.
Perfect. So what prompted you to create some of these partnerships?
So, you know, one of the things I always like to think about is making sure that what we do in housing, particularly with learning communities and academic initiatives, is aligned with the mission, vision, and values of our institution, of our Division of Student Affairs. And about 5 years ago, we had a real push at the university level per our president, moving towards innovation, entrepreneurship, new ideas, new cutting edge research. And so for me, the question is, how can housing be part of it? How can housing support that goal? And so that's really where this came from. And so we had the opportunity, really, really fortunate, to be able to build Infinity Hall from the ground up. And I got to, as a relatively new professional, have a seat at the table and talk about what it would look like to have a true living learning center for entrepreneurship. So that's where it came from. It came from what I think is something that's really important in the work that we do, is constantly checking in with how our work aligns with the mission, vision, values, goals, objectives of the institution.
And so what this course is for individuals who are, it's very similar to the nuts and bolts from LLP, but it's really focusing on individuals or universities who haven't necessarily started living learning communities, or maybe they're trying to strengthen theirs by looking at it a little bit more holistically. So what are some pieces of advice you would give to individuals working towards creating partnerships with outside resources?
I think the folks who are in the community that are hustling in the same way are going to be really excited about the opportunity to work with a startup living learning community program, right? So like one of the initiatives that we just did was actually partnered with one of our Launchpad companies, and they're called NAC, and actually at a lot of campuses. but they started here in Gainesville, and they were one of our incubating companies. And they are like the tutor version of Uber. So all of these tutors are on the app, and I'm sitting in my room, and right now it's finals week at UF. And I really need help with my general chemistry exam. I'm not getting through these questions. The teaching center is booked. So I pull out my app. I get a bunch of offers from tutors. I see all their credentials, their rates, and I call them. So they're new. They're trying to get a foot in the door. Mm-hmm. And so we did this big study cafe over our reading days with them. And so we had like 6 to 8 tutors over the course of about a 4-hour cafe who came in and who worked with our students and who were really excited to get that FaceTime with them, get that entry point with them, while we were also able to have, for us, it was really high value for us and our residents. And so we didn't have a lot of resources to go out and pay a bunch of tutors, right? Mm-hmm. And they don't have a huge marketing budget, but we were able to give them access in a very controlled way to our students. And for our students, it was really high value as well. And so I think that opportunities like that, like those are the folks that are working hard, that are excited to get with our students, whether it's as potential customers, whether it's as potential interns, potential volunteers. I know one of my colleagues, Nerys Lachansky at Virginia Commonwealth University, works a lot with community organizations with a service learning, living learning community. And they're always looking for interns and volunteers, and so she's able to provide that with her students. And so I think that out in the community, the folks that would be the most likely to want to work with living learning communities also kind of have a lot in common with us and have a lot of shared goals with us.
Cool. Any other pieces of advice or things, I think maybe as you look back at all these partnerships you've created, that you wish you would have done differently, or that you just feel is something people really need to consider before moving forward?
One of the things that I'm really glad that we did is pretty explicit letters of agreement or memos of understanding with those partners. And you can have conversation after conversation after conversation. And for me, like, I like people, I like having conversations, I'm big picture. And so being able to make sure that that's captured and documented and formalized has been really important for us in terms of the things that we can expect from our partners and they can expect from us, and just making sure that we're getting what we need. I'll tell you, with our partners that we work with off campus, I think one of them that has a 3-year LOA and the rest are 1 year. And so having, especially in the beginning, keep it exploratory, keep those agreements short term. And that also gives you some flexibility, some nimbleness to revise not just the partnerships, right, but different aspects of the partnerships, different expectations as your learning community grows. We also know a best practice for a learning community is that it takes 3 to 5 years for it to kind of form its identity, reach that peak, reach where it is. And so having patience and being adaptable, but also giving these partnerships time to kind of reach that peak position.
Perfect. Thank you.